Join me as we learn the third Torah reading of Parashat Shemini, chapter 9, verse 24. Yesterday we learned that finally the Jewish people were able to experience the divine glory when Aaron went in to bring all the sacrifices and bless the Jewish people, and then they saw the divine glory. Today we continue as the Jewish people experience this amazing day. However, with tragedy that Aaron's two sons pass away on the first day of Aaron's inauguration as the high priest. Verse 24, Vateitze eish milifnei Hashem, and a fire came down and from before God and consumed, and it consumed everything that was on the altar, as the ascent offering, and the fats, and all the people saw it, and they sang praises, and they fell upon their faces. Rashi says, verse 24. Vayareinu kitarkume, like the Targum translates, which means, and they gave praise. Chapter 10, verse 1. Vayikhu b'nei Aaron Nadav Avihu, and the children of Aaron, Nadav and Avihu, took ish machtasei, each one of them took their pan. The Aaron's sons took each a pan. Vayitnu bahen eish, and they put fire in it. Vayisimu lekateiros, and they put incense in it. Vayakrivu lifnei Hashem, and they brought it before God. Eish zara, a strange fire, one that was not called for. Asher litziva oisam, that God did not command them to do. Rashi, vateitze eish. Next verse 2. Vateitze eish milifnei Hashem, and a fire went out from before God. Vatoichal oisam, and consumed them. Vayamusu, and they died lifnei Hashem, before God. Rashi, Vateitze eish. Over here we see that they brought the sacrifice, they brought the incense, and they died. Rabbi Lezer, what's the reason why Nadav and Avihu died? Leimeisu b'nei Aaron, the true reason why the children of Aaron died, Nadav and Avihu, Ela yidei shahidu halacha b'fnei Moshe Rabban, was because they said and they ruled a law in front of Moshe their father. Meaning, Moshe their teacher, Over here they went ahead on their own and brought this incense. They thought that they were allowed to bring incense even on a voluntary basis. However, they should have asked Moshe, and they did not. And they should have waited for the fire to come down from heaven, but instead, they went and put a fire on their own, realizing that this was not the right thing. Rabbi Shmuel gives another reason. Shtu yayin, that they were drunk. Nichnasu lemikdash, they went into the holy temple. Teda, and his proof for this is, Sha'achar misasin, as we're soon going to see, that after they died, what does God tell them? That afterwards God tells Aaron and the remaining two sons that they should never serve while being intoxicated. Mashal Melech, this is an example for a king. Shayli ben Bayis, he had a son, he had somebody that worked in his home. Like it says in Vayikra Rabbah, and he sees that the one that was responsible, and he appointed him, and he saw the first one was killed, and he didn't know why the first one was killed, and therefore he tells him, don't go into this place, so you shouldn't have the same behavior like the other one. Verse 3. Vayomer Moshe al Aaron, Moshe said to Aaron, Hu asher diber Hashem, this is what God has spoken. Lamer saying, Bikrevai ekadesh, I will be sanctified through those who are most near to me. Val pnei kol ha'om hakaved, and I will be honored before all people. Vayidem Aaron, and Aaron was silent. Rashi, Hu asher diber, v'heichan diber, where did God say this? This is previously in the book of Exodus, that I will appear myself to the Jewish people, and there I will be sanctified by my honor. Don't say with my honor, those that honor me. Moshe said to Aaron, Aaron, my brother, I know that there would be a sanctification of this home with those that are known and close to God. I thought that the ones that would be killed would be me or you. I see. Now I see that your sons are greater than me and you, because it was with them that God sanctified his home. And Aaron was silent. He was rewarded by the very fact that he was quiet, accepting the decree and Moses' consolation. What is the reward he received? That God told him spoke to him alone. As we're soon going to see, that the Torah reading, which tells us about the prohibition of a Kohen working while intoxicated, was told to Aaron alone. Bikrevai, what is the word bikrevai? B'chiri, with my chosen ones. And I will be honored before all the people. When God does a judgment on the righteous people, then his name becomes honored by everybody else. Because they say, if God is so strict with the righteous, how much more so how much more so by those who are not by the evil. As it says in Tehillim, God is awesome from those who are in awe of him, or those who keep him sacred. Don't say mimiktashecha from the place that is holy, but mimuktashecha from the righteous people who make God holy. Over here we see, Chassidus explains as well, that this was not only when we talk about drunk, or even bringing the incense, or whatever reason that it may be, all of them have the same common denominator, a place that they wanted to reach a higher level, that Nadav and Avihu believe that they wanted to reach a level of intoxication of spirituality, to reach a level of heightened spirituality, but not bring it back down into this world. And that was the problem, that they were in a state of what we call rotzui, cleaving to God, but not in a way to bring it back down into the physical, and that's why their souls left their body. Verse 4, Vayikra Moshe called the Mishal Vel-Tzafan to Mishal and El-Tzafan, B'nei Uziel, the children of Uziel, Doid Aaron, the uncle of Aaron. Vayomer Aleim, and he said to them, Kirvu, approach, Se'u esachechem, and carry out your relatives, Me'es Pnei HaKodesh, from the holy place, Al Michutz Lamachane, to outside, and bring them outside the camp. Rashi, Doid Aaron, how was he the uncle of Aaron? Uziel was the brother of Amram, who was the father of Aaron. Shnemer, as it says, Bnei Kahas was Amram, Yitzhak, Hebron, and Uziel. Suas achechem, carry your brothers. Like a person that sells his friend. Take away this dead body before the bride. So not to confuse or diffuse or mix into and disrupt the joy that was going on there. So too over here, this is the day of their inauguration. Take away these people, the dead bodies. This way, it should not disrupt their celebration. Vayikrevu, and they came close. Vayisom bikutonoisam, and they carried them by their tunics. El michutz lamechana, to outside the camp. Kasher diber Moshe, like Moshe said. Rashi, bikutonoisam, what does it mean by their tunics? Shalmesim, of the dead bodies. Malami, this teaches us that when it says that they went up in fire and consumed by the fire, their bodies, their clothing has not been burnt. Elonishmasam, their souls left. Like two pillars of fire, strokes of fire went into their nostrils, and their soul went up on high. Continuing verse 6. Now the laws of mourning pertaining to the remaining children of Aaron and Aaron. Vayomer Moshe al Aaron, and Moshe said to Aaron, Elazar Summer, and Elazar Summer, one of his sons, Rashechem al tifro, your heads here you shall grow, do not let your head here grow. Uvbigdeichem leisifremu, and do not rend your garments. V'leisamusu, so that you not die. Val kol ha'ida yiktzeif, and let be angry with the entire community. Rather, v'acheichem kol beis Yisrael yifku es asreif ha'shasar Hashem. Your brothers and the entire Jewish people will bewail the terrible event that God has burnt. Over here, the death and the mourning of your brothers, the Jewish people will mourn for you, as we see in Rashi. Al tifro, al tegadlu seir. That means don't allow your hair to grow like generally mourners who don't take haircuts. Generally, we know that a mourner is prohibited in cutting his hair. However, in this case, he was warning them, telling them that you cannot disrupt this celebration, which is for God, and therefore you will continue to cut your hair as you should. From here we learn that if they should do so, they will die. V'achechem kol beis Yisrael mikam. From here we learn that the pain and the sorrow of the great scholars, Mutelas alakelis abelbad, is responsible for everybody to mourn for a scholar. Verse 7. And from the entrance of the tent of meeting you should not leave. Pentamusu, lest you die. Because you have the anointing of oil on you. And they did like Moshe said. Verse 8, this is a special and a privileged statement that God now appears to Aaron and tells him about the prohibition of officiating in the holy temple while intoxicated. And God comes to Aaron alone, saying, Yayin v'sheichar al teisht, do not drink wine in a way of intoxication. Ato v'necha, you and your children itach with you. But v'yachem aloy al me'od, when you enter into the tent of meeting, v'loy samusu, you shall not die. Chuka soilum d'dereisechem, this is an eternal statute for generations to come. Yayin v'sheichar, why does it say wine and beer? The terminology is because Yayin derech shikrusei, drinking wine in a way that you would become drunk. I only know this when they walk into the entrance, into the tent of meeting. How do I know that they're not allowed to do it even when they approach the altar? That's because we learn it from someplace else. Nemar can be a selmaid. Over here it talks about the entrance into the tent of meeting. And it says about the mitzvah that they're only allowed to approach the altar when they sanctify and wash their hands and feet. Be a selmaid. And as also, when it talks about entering into the tent of meeting, just like by washing their hands and feet, was the Torah made it the same laws that apply when they enter into the tent of meeting. Afkan, so too, when it comes to serving while intoxicated, approaching the altar is just like when they would come to the tent of meeting. Verse 10. And as well, when you have to be sober enough, that is the reason to distinguish between the actions of sacrifices that are holy and profane. And to also to know the difference between what is defiled and not ritually defiled. Rashi, verse 10, Ula havdil, in order that you should be able to define the differences, the one that is holy and one that is not. So here you learn that if he did work while he was intoxicated, what he did will then be prohibited and not valid. Verse 11, similarly, a sober person has to be fit to instruct the Jewish people. The laws. Asher Dibur Hashem, that God commanded, aleim to them, b'yad Moshe, through Moses. Rashi, ulahayris, limed, this also teaches us, she'aser shikar beira, that this doesn't only apply to a kohen, to even a scholar who may be intoxicated is not allowed to rule laws as well. Yochel, I would think, yechayev misa, that if a person who's a scholar and starts ruling while he's intoxicated, will also be liable to the death penalty. Talmud Loimar, therefore the verse previously says in verse 9, only you and your children will not die. Only a kohen who serves in the holy temple while intoxicated is liable for the capital punishment. However, a scholar, if he rules while intoxicated, he is not liable of capital punishment. It only belongs strictly to the kohen. This concludes the third Torah reading of Parshas Shemini.